Hey there, Heather Ho there, Chef Cutter Diamond welcoming you to yet another Cutter Top 10 sports video. And today, as I'm rocking the Arkansas Razorback shirt, I want to tell you about the top 10 college basketball controversies of all time. I talked about the college football controversies last video, and now I've got to talk about the college basketball side of things. So it does come off a little bit sharp and all that. But anyhow, so let's talk about the controversies in all time. And what they have to do and all that. So there were 10 of them, and there were some that crossed sports and all that. Not just it ruined football, it ruined basketball too. So that was what happened. So a lot of them will be on this one. Number 10 is Cam Newton and Auburn. Now, of course, this is a football one. Well, yes, it was a football one, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, the improper benefits not just ruined Cam Newton in football, they ruined the basketball team too. Athlete compensation, the groundwork for the NIL deals and all that. Yeah, the NCAA basically was just like, what's going on here? And with Newton's father trying to allegedly pay, like have people pay for their son and all that, and Auburn winning it, there was just too much to worry about. And Cam Newton did that. He sure did. Number 9 is another one that crossed sports, and it was Reggie Bush and USC. So USC with the football team was a dominant juggernaut in the mid 2000s. Matt Lerner and Reggie Bush would both win Heisman trophies as in the College Football Player of the Year, and the team was on a 30-plus game winning streak, and then all they had to do was beat Texas at the 2006 Rose Bowl, and they would still be dominant and all that, and give Reggie Bush a nice send-off alongside Matt Lerner. Both of them were seniors. However, USC lost to Texas in the great 1-2 matchup called the greatest college football game of all time, and Keith Jackson calling the 4th and 5 play. He's running to the corner. He's got it. So Reggie doing his job, and USC looked good. Unfortunately, in 2009, the rumors were circulating that Reggie had improperly took some gifts from a booster or something in cash, and maybe his parents had something to do with it. So they went hard on USC. They got rid of their 2004 national championship. Well, 04-05, I guess you can call it that. And, wins were forfeited, and, you know, their legacy was tarnished. Reggie was upset because, they took away his Heisman for that. They didn't take away Leinart's, they took his way. So he fought for it. And for 10 years, there was a battle. But the NCAA was ruled to have been in violation of everything. And so practically, they gave Reggie Bush his stuff back. So that was huge. Number 8 is yet another one that crossed the floor, and that was Penn State being bit because of the pesky ness of college football. There was a sexual abuse allegations, and of course, Jerry Sandusky, the top assistant to Joe Pa, as in Joe Paterno, used the foundation and would prey on younger kids and, what he would do to them. I don't really want to tell you, but you can understand. Unfortunately, though, it ruined Penn State. They had to forfeit a lot of wins. Joe Pa was kicked to the curb. A lot of people thought Penn State overreacted to that, but I don't think they did. Sandusky, of course, went to jail for 30 to 60 years, aka life, and the judge purposely gave him life because, it was some kind of use. So, anyhow, that was what happened. And that was just horrible that Penn State's basketball team had to suffer. They don't really have much of a basketball legacy. I'm sorry, but that's me. Number 7 was a big move, and that was a paid for play allegations. In 2017, the FBI actually got involved, and they found widespread bribery, corruption, major programs and coaches being hit. It was just big. it was kind of akin to the #1 scandal, which I will talk about later. But the fact of the matter is that, it was a pay for play, and, athletes were doing that in college football and basketball for years. Like, they wouldn't play until they got paid and all that. Boosters would ruin everything. And now you got the NIL deal and all that. So that was just what ended up happening. Number 6 is always the recruiting violations. There would be tons of recruiting violations, like Kentucky and SMU were had penalties for illegally recruiting practices, improper benefits, everything else. Yeah, it was just practically the whole thing that what was going to happen, and always would happen. Recruiting violations and all that. Every school's got them. And then, the NIL has made things a little more awkward. Awkward. Number 5 is North Carolina's academic fraud. For years, North Carolina would have like athletes manage to make the scores needed to make the basketball and football team. Unfortunately, though, they were caught in a years-long scandal. It was fake classes for athletes to maintain eligibility. So practically, the professors would be in on the ruse and would give them money, like grades, so that they could maintain eligibility and all that. But yeah, North Carolina got bit. They really did. Number 4 is Tark the Shark, as in Jerry Tarkanian and UNLV being in trouble. So UNLV was a decent school, a mid-major school, as you will, not one of the power schools in the 1980s. Las Vegas knew what to do with everything. And they were the 1990 NCAA champions. They took out a tough Arkansas squad. They did they beat up Bama? I can't remember. But yeah, UNLV were great in 1990. They were the national champs, taking care of Duke by 30 points. Tark the Shark as in coach did well. And then LV went to the Final Four, trying to go back to back, but they lost to Duke, and the fans were upset. And that was when Duke finally won the national title game. However, in mid-1991, there was a photo of players in a hot tub with another guy. He looked like a booster, but he was a known gambler. So they would be friendly with, like, I would say Anthony Mason, but around, well, Greg Anthony, Larry Johnson, and a few other players who did well in the NBA in the 90s. But the fact was that UNLV was penalized by the NCAA. They weren't stripped of their national title, and they weren't stripped of the NCAA tournament spot, although they could have. Well, they couldn't punish LV after 1990 because, they were defending the championship. So that's what ended up happening. Number 3 is Rick Pitino in Louisville. Now, Louisville is the only school to lose their college basketball national championship due to problems, and that was the 2013 team. Louisville beat Michigan. Ironically, we'll talk about Michigan in the next entry. But anyway, Louisville looked decent. They won a national title. They were 2-time champs in the 80s, and then they finally were back to prominence because they wanted to beat up on the University of Kentucky because, cross-state rivals. And that was what happened. But unfortunately, there were allegations of recruiting prostitutes for players and lots of NCAA violations. Yeah, the improper benefits were big, but prostitutes? Really? Really? This is akin to Salt Lake City, 2002 Olympics. Nevertheless, Rick Pa was booted, in a sense, from Louisville, and they vacated the national title. But that was nothing compared to number 2, and that was the Fab Five with Michigan. Michigan had 5 fabulous freshmen. Say that 5 times fast. In the 91-92 basketball season, they had Jimmy King, Juwan Howard, Jalen Rose, Chris Webber, and the other guy. Ray Jackson. That's it. So anyway, the Fab Five led Michigan to the 92 NCAA final, even though a lot of people said they weren't going to get that far with 5 freshmen. You can't do that. But they did. They held Duke in check for a little bit, but Duke won the title. And for 15 years, that was the last time a team went back to back. So anyway, the Fab Five did what they could, and they ended up winning the hearts of America. They all came back for '93, and they got to the final against North Carolina. Ended up losing to North Carolina in the final thanks to Chris Webber's stupid timeout. We have none left, so that was a technical foul, and North Carolina easily won the game. Webber would declare for the NBA draft, go first overall to Orlando, but Orlando traded him to Golden State for Penny Hardaway, who was Golden State's number 3 pick. It actually worked out quite well. Penny Hardaway was a great player for Orlando, and Chris Webber would be okay for Golden State, but it would be better with Sacramento in the 2000s. Juwan Howard became a Raptor for a little bit. He was also a Washington player for some time. Ray Jackson, I don't think really did that well. Jimmy King, I don't think did anything right. I think he was a Raptor draft pick in the expansion draft, but yeah. And the other guy, Juwan, Chris Webber, Jalen Rose was a Raptor too, and a Bull and a Pacer. But yeah, C-Web was okay. Unfortunately, though, years later, in I think '97, things started to unravel as we learned that Ed Martin, who was a booster who would try to get people to sign with the University of Michigan, was involved with Chris Webber's family as early as Webber in the 8th grade. So, those were questioned. C-Web would always have his career be defined by the boosters, and they ended up losing the wins and all those banners of the games that Weber played. Basically, the school kind of made them non-existent and all that. A lot of people said that they just bowed down to pressure, but who wouldn't? And number one is the biggest college basketball controversy. It's called point shaving. There were multiple incidents. Boston College in 1979 had their problems. It was actually part of Goodfellas, I think. 1994, Arizona State had a scandal, but nothing compared to the 1951 City College of New York Beavers. So, point shaving, if you don't know, is that teams will be given a line and all that. Say Michigan was favored over Arkansas by 6 points. You could manipulate Michigan players to take the under and all that to lose. That means that Michigan doesn't win by 6 or more points and all that. So anyway, it was just stupid and all that. But yeah, the point shaving was just massive and all that. Back in the 50s, when college basketball was actually more prominent than NBA basketball, hard to believe, but that's true. It was at a time that college football and NFL were kind of equals. But anyway, yeah. CCNY were both the NCAA and NIT champions when you could play both tournaments in one time. And the NIT was more prestigious than the NCAA tournament. NIT is now, of course, home to the schools that didn't make the cut in the NCAA tournament, but they'll get some kind of trophy. But yeah, CCNY just had problems with players just taking money to manipulate the point totals and the game scores and all that stuff. It was huge. It didn't just ruin CCNY, it was a widespread network. Lots of the New York area schools like Long Island, Brooklyn, and there's got to be a few others. And even St. John's got affected by it. And basketball in New York City wouldn't be the same because it was basically king of the sports and all that at Madison Square Garden. But the problem was that now it was nothing. Madison Square Garden still was a good venue, but college basketball wasn't king anymore as the New York schools took a big hit. Kentucky even took a big hit. A couple of their star players were involved, like Alex Groza. His career was over. CCNY, practically their program was destroyed and they never got back to Division One and all that. So it just goes to prove that, one scandal can bring down a whole school. It's a kind of akin to SMU in the 1980s and all that. But yeah, it just brought them down. But unlike SMU, CCNY is not a Division One school, so they haven't come back to prominence, and it really hurt the program. It did. Anyhow, Jeff, I'm going to do.